Hello, and welcome to Making Mindful Quarantine Meals. My name is Vanessa Lardo, and I work for Beaver Medical Group as a corporate health and wellness educator and registered dietitian. Welcome to today's class. So, as we all know, the world has changed very drastically and dramatically. We began not too long ago, maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, with a lot of empty shelves. A lot of foods had gone pretty quickly because people were worried about food shortages and things like that, and also being quarantined. Not to mention, we don't really want to be going to the store that often to get foods, especially if you have a compromised immune system or maybe you're older, you're worried about getting sick, and so you want to make sure you have most of your food at home so you don't have to make that many trips. But also sometimes there are a couple of things that are not at the store that we need, or there are certain vegetables that maybe we're looking for that aren't on the shelf. Possibly even we're looking for a certain type of meat that we can't find that we normally eat. So all of these things can make you feel hopeless, make you feel stressed out. But the good news is we are going to talk today about some tools and tricks that you can use to be able to make the most out of your meals during this quarantine. There is always hope. You guys can learn some new routines, some new ways of cooking and making and prepping so that you can make the most out of your quarantine meals. I like to always tell people, yes, there is a time to feel fearful. I understand that. But once you kind of understand that there is always a way out, there is always hope and a light at the end of the tunnel, how can we transform that fear into action? So the steps that we're going to take today into making mindful meals is talking about what is healthy eating. So just giving you an overview of how to make your plate more balanced, especially if you have found that you bought a lot more foods that don't go bad as quickly, they have possibly more sodium or fat or sugar in them, how we can talk about eating those in moderation and hopefully getting more of the healthy foods onto your plate. We're also going to talk about how to keep your fridge and pantry organized. So you may have bought a lot of foods and now you can't remember what you bought. I definitely am kind of in that same boat where, my husband and I bought different foods and now we have to go through, take inventory before we panic and go out and buy more. We're also going to talk about how to plan ahead so that you can prep meals around simple ingredients, how you can freeze leftovers to repurpose or to pull out when you need it, and then how you can eat things sodium in moderation, because that's going to be really important. A lot of people bought non-perishable items, and I don't want you overeating on those foods. And then how to become a savvy shopper, what places to go to find the things that you need. And then also how to cope with your emotions without food. That one's really important right now because we are at home, working from home, many of us, or, we might be working in a work setting, but then when we come home, we run the risk of overeating. So how to cope with your anxiety and your emotions without that food. So the first thing we're going to talk about is balancing your plate. It is really important that even though we're in quarantine, we're not eating out as often, that we do balance our plate with healthy options. You want to make half your plate vegetables. And the reason being is because vegetables have so many vitamins and minerals that our bodies need that we wouldn't normally get just by breathing and being alive. Your body does not produce those vitamins and minerals. So we have to eat them. And if we don't eat them, then our body becomes deficient. So many people might say that they're deficient in vitamin D. The reason may be is that maybe they're not getting enough sun, but also maybe they're not getting it in their nutrients. So you want to make half of your plate vegetables, make it the star of the show, and you can do whatever's available at the store right now. If you normally eat a certain type of vegetable and it's not there, try something new. Pick a vegetable you've never tried, maybe find a recipe for it. Now's a great opportunity to cook and to kind of brush up on your skills. The other thing you can do is if you do buy canned vegetables, just make sure you rinse them off. And it's totally fine if you want to get frozen vegetables because they are frozen at their peak, so they will retain most of their nutrients. Then you want the other fourth of your plate to be a healthy protein. So that could look like something like salmon, chicken breast, turkey breast, any lean meat, but you do want to limit the red meats. And then the other fourth of your plate is going to be a complex carb. So that's going to be anything like quinoa, brown rice, you could do whole wheat pasta, but just something that's a complex carb and doesn't take a huge portion of your plate. Now, I know a lot of people do love carbs, or you might be keto right now, and so you've taken a lot of carbs out, but you do want to make sure that you limit the amount of carbs that you eat, especially if you're going to be more sedentary. It will get stored as fat. So you can use your hands for portion control. If you look down at the bottom of the slide, you'll see protein is about the size of the palm of your hand and the height of a deck of cards. And then if you cup your fist, that's about 1 cup of a veggie serving. So if you do 2 fists on your plate, you can see that that will make about half of your plate. And then a carb serving would be a little bit smaller than the palm of your hand. So your body does need complex carbohydrates for the different vitamins and minerals that you get from those, but it doesn't need a huge portion of it. So a lot of people ask me, how many fruits and vegetables should I have a day? So it varies between males and females. For males, you might need a little bit more, but the difference isn't huge. So a good rule of thumb is about 2 cups of fruit and 3 cups of vegetables. If you want to get more technical, you can always look at your activity and your age, but just a good rule of thumb is 2 cups of fruit, 3 cups of vegetables. So 2 cups of fruit would be 2 small fruits, or if you want to cup both your hands together and you look at your hands cupped together, that is 1 cup. So 2 cups of fruit, 3 cups of vegetables. And people may think, well, that sounds like a lot, but if you look at this picture right here, each individual picture is 1 day's serving for 2 fruits and 3 vegetables. So you'll see in the first photo, there's about 3 servings of vegetables in that salad bowl. Then you'll see the fruit is about 2 servings of fruit. Then on the next picture, you'll see the applesauce and the banana is your 2 servings of fruit. And then you have the bell pepper and the salad, which is your 3 servings of vegetables. So you can go through all the pictures and kind of see how it's not that big of a volume that you need of fruits and vegetables a day, but you do want to get it into your diet. Again, there may be a shortage, but you can find still some of these items on the shelf in pretty much a lot of the stores, so you don't have to be as fearful of that. So then you're also going to get to know what you have in your pantry, making sure that whatever you bought in the last 3 weeks, you know what you have. Maybe make a list. You can use a Word doc. You can use Excel spreadsheet. You can use just a pen and paper. But making sure that you bring everything to the front of your pantry, organizing things, labeling them clearly, putting them in clear plastic containers so that you know exactly what you have. So now that you know what you have in your pantry, you've organized it, and you have a pretty good idea of what balanced eating looks like, now we can create a plan so then we can purchase our food and then prepare it. So the next thing you're going to do is your menu planning. So whatever you found in your fridge and pantry, you can now use those items to make a simple meal. Again, the word being simple. We may not have as much access to flour right now, or certain items like rice. So I want you to keep it simple, using minimal ingredients, not trying to go overboard. So if you find in your fridge or pantry, for example, that you have some shredded cheese and tortillas, what can you make with that? You can make chicken quesadillas. So if you have a little chicken left over, you can use that. And if not, you can always just do a cheese quesadilla. And then as a side, you can do like steamed broccoli, or you can do Brussels sprouts, or you can have some fresh carrots on the side. So that's how you'll have your veggie serving. Here are some other examples before we get started into the planning part of it, but I want to give you some examples so that you can then use it for the activity that we have. So here are some really simple meals that don't require a lot of ingredients, and most likely you'll have these things at home or you can purchase them. You can always do in the morning for breakfast a slice of whole wheat toast with avocado mashed up instead of using butter, and then top it off with a boiled egg. And that will cost, just 1 second, my dog is barking, so let me quiet her down. All right, so what else you could do is, if you don't find eggs for whatever reason, they might have been picked up by people, you can always do tofu. And if you grill up tofu really nicely, you can always put that on your toast as well. So this costs about $2.40 and about 60 cents per serving if you're just eating it for one individual. So super affordable meal, really well balanced. You're going to get a lot of great nutrients out of that. Okay, the next option is oatmeal with raisins or walnuts. really wonderful breakfast. You're going to get a lot of fiber, great vitamin B, selenium, magnesium from your oats. Again, oatmeal may be out right now, or you may have gotten some when there was still available. I do believe when I went to the store the other day, they still had oatmeal, so you can do this as an option. And it's a really affordable meal. You can make enough for the family, which will serve about for $3.24 for people. And so this is a great option as well. Simple ingredients and healthy. Another option is yogurt and fresh fruit. So you can do 0% fat yogurt and then top it off with fresh fruit. A little bit of honey will give it some flavor, and again, very affordable meal. Your other option is to do like a green protein smoothie. You can always add some blueberries, a cup of spinach, 1/4 of a cup of tofu, and then half a cup of blueberries. So with this, the tofu might sound kind of strange, but actually tofu doesn't have a very strong flavor. You give it flavor, so however you season it or whatever you put it in, it'll get masked by whatever else you put in there. Again, the spinach doesn't have a very strong flavor, so you can mix spinach and tofu with blueberries, which have a pretty strong flavor, and the unsweetened almond milk, and that will mask the taste of the spinach and tofu. So you can even get your kids to drink this. They'll have some protein in there, and it'll also have some spinach, which will give them that serving of vegetables. So that's about $3 for a family and 75 cents per serving. If you want to start drinking protein powder because maybe you're trying to cut back on meat to save what you have, then protein powders are great. One that I use is called ProGym. You can find this on Amazon. I believe it's about $30, and you get probably a month and a half worth of protein there if you drink it daily. You can also choose vegan protein if you can't do whey or you can't do milk-based proteins. Then vegan protein is the way to go, and that's called Genius brand. And that can also be found on Amazon. It doesn't have the best flavor, but if you can kind of handle it, then it's not too bad. Protein shakes that are already pre-made. A Premier protein shake is wonderful. You can get that with a coffee flavor that has a little bit of caffeine added to it. So now you're drinking your coffee and your protein together. And you can buy those on Amazon. If you want to get more greens in, but you aren't able to maybe necessarily eat them at this time or find the ones that you want, you can always use super greens. I've been using that, and you just use a little bit of the spoon that's in there, add it to your protein shake, and it gives you extra energy, digestion, and immunity. And then also you can do organic greens to add some more veggies to your protein shakes. All right, so here's another meal option for you. You can always take your chicken breast or tofu if you're not able to find chicken. I put tofu in here in this presentation because tofu actually is not something that's common for people to eat, so that's actually been out more readily than maybe some of our proteins, but I have noticed that meats have come back on the shelf, so we aren't as worried about that. But still, we don't want to overbuy or hoard food. We want to make sure that there's enough for everyone. All right, so you can always throw some potatoes, carrots, celery on a baking sheet with some olive oil and place the chicken breast or your tofu on there and then go ahead and bake it. This is a great option for you, and it's only $10.88 for the whole family. Usually if you go out to eat by yourself, that's just the cost of one person. Another thing you can do is a stir fry. So now you've taken something that maybe is like an Italian type of dish and now made it into an Asian dish just by changing some of the flavoring. So you can do a stir fry with different vegetables. Bell peppers work great. You can throw in some corn and then top it off with low sodium soy sauce to give it some of that Asian type flavor. So that will be about $10 for a family of 4. And then again, if you're wanting to go more vegetarian, just a couple meals a week, you can do a veggie kale wrap. This is basically just a cup of sweet kale, salad mix, with a tablespoon of hummus, great protein right there, 3 slices of cucumber, 1/4 cup of sun-dried tomatoes, half a cup of sliced avocado, half a tablespoon of olive oil, and then your 1 Olay Extreme Wellness high fiber wrap. Those are only about 50 calories per wrap, and they have a lot of fiber in them. They're a great option for making different types of wraps. So this, again, isn't that expensive. It's about $9 for a family of 4. Then we have portobello burger lettuce wraps. These are also wonderful because the portobello mushroom is a vegetarian option. Just 1 minute. So, as I'm working from home, disclaimer, I do have cute little fur dogs, and they do get a little bit noisy. So I do apologize if I have to pause every once in a while, but that's the new quarantine life, right? All right, so back to the portobello burger lettuce wraps. So basically, you can grill the portobello mushrooms, and then you can use lettuce leaves and red onion to flavor it really nicely, and you've got a great option right there to cut back on meats. That's about $5 for a family of 4. All right, the next one is the corn tortilla with spinach. So this is a great option. Again, if you're trying to cut back on meat, you can see there the different ingredients. And then if you don't have chicken, you can always grill up some tofu or tempeh, and you can have that as a side. So again, very affordable, and you can see that that's a great option for the family. And then this is a bean and kale stew with egg or tofu. If you want to cook some beans, add some kale stew, top with a fried egg, that's great. And you're going to get protein, your veggie option, and lots of protein with this because you have the beans and the egg. Here's some other meatless meals. If you are limited on meat, you can always do a bell pepper, bake it in the oven with some beans, and then top it off with some cheese. You can also take some baked potatoes, bake those, scoop out the center, put an egg in it, put it back in the oven to bake, and then another great option that's meatless. And the last one would be spiralized zucchini noodles that if you're cutting back on carbs and meat, you can just top it off with some grilled tofu or even some avocado. So all really, really tasty options. All right, so I created this presentation maybe about 2 weeks ago, and I'm recording it now. So there might be more options for meat out there at this point. I do believe that there are. But if you aren't able to find meats or you just want to cut back for health reasons, you can always supplement with omega-3 supplements to get those omega-3s that you would maybe miss out from eating certain fish. So great option as well. Okay, so I showed you some things on balanced eating, how you can create a balanced meal. I showed you some low-cost, effective, minimal ingredient meals that you can definitely review this talk and just kind of rewind if you need to get, if there was any of them that you really liked and you wanted to see how to make those. And now this is the application portion. So what you're going to do now that you know what's in your pantry, you have some pretty good ideas of what you could make out of minimal ingredients from what I told you, I want you to create your own meal plan. So I'm not going to give you much time to do that right now because I want to keep moving forward. But if you want to take a pause and pause me right here, you can always do that. And then just create your meal plan for the week. So starting from Sunday to Saturday, what are you going to have for breakfast? What will you have for lunch? What will you have for dinner? And then what are you going to have for snacks? So once you have that compiled, you're able to then go to the grocery store armed with information. If you're not sure if there are certain ingredients at the store, you can always do a quick search on their website. I know if you use the Walmart app, you can search to see if they have those items available, and if not, it'll say out of stock. The same thing with Target, so that way you know ahead of time before going what they have. Or you can do grocery pickup. I know Target's doing pretty well with that. All right, so the next thing after you make your meal plan is making that shopping list. So you'll just create a quick shopping list, head to the store, or you'll shop online. Just making sure that when you do your shopping checklist, that you make sure that you have these items on your list. Making sure that you have plenty of vegetables, if you have low-fat or non-dairy options, beans, whole grains, and then fish. That's a really healthy shopping checklist. Trying to cut back on some of the more processed items, and if you do have those in the shopping cart, that's totally fine, but just making sure that you eat those in moderation. All right, so now we're going to talk about tips for preparing your meals, how to make the most out of those meals. If you are able to find a lot of a certain food, go ahead and triple that recipe or double, triple that recipe so that you can freeze it and you're not going out to eat as often or ordering Postmates or things like that. And that way you can just pull it out of the freezer and use it for the next time. Some things that freeze really well are meats, cooked rice, beans, homemade stock, leftover bread, soups, stews, chilies, or sauces. So again, if you have bread that might be going bad quick and you know you're not going to eat it, or you can't eat it within a certain amount of time, just go ahead and put it in the freezer and you can pull it out for later use. So the same thing goes with soups and stews. Sometimes we make a big volume of those, and you can definitely save some for later. Try to also use your leftovers wisely. If you make pasta the night before and you're not sure what to do with it the next day, you can always change it into a cold pasta, adding some tuna to it to give it a little bit of a different flavor. You can also make a sandwich with leftover roast, chicken, turkey, or salmon. So that's another great option if you've made a lot of chicken and you're not sure what to do with it. You can make a shake, so using some of the protein powders we talked about, or even some of the green ingredients that we talked about. You can always make something leftover with that. And then you can also use a sauce or leftover meat for dinner to make an omelet or burrito. So I know that a lot of us did buy prepackaged foods and things like that were not necessarily fresh because we wanted them to last a while. So I want you guys to make sure that you eat those things in moderation because there are more fresh vegetables out now. There are certain things that are coming back on the shelf. So I don't want you going through all your boxed items all at one time. With your canned items that I'm sure many bought, just make sure that you rinse those out. You can put them in a colander and then just run water over them for 30 seconds and then try and soak them for 30 minutes. That will reduce the sodium content a lot. And here are some items that wouldn't necessarily taste salty, but they do have salt in them. So you want to eat these in moderation. Oreo cookies have salt in them. Waffles have salt in them. Even your granola bars, syrup, different things like that. So just really be mindful that all those little things add up during the day. If you're eating a lot of packaged items, they will add up and you might go over your allotted 2,000 milligrams a day. So trying to eat fresh items as often as possible and limiting these to just having a small amount. Here are some more low sodium options that you can choose. You can always do your canned tuna in water. Also a handful of nuts without salt is a great low sodium option. Fresh kale, broccoli, blueberries, chicken breasts, black beans, things like that all have very small amounts of sodium in them. So these are the foods you're going to want to choose more often, even if you did buy a lot of prepackaged foods. All right, so if you're not sure where to find certain items because possibly they're running out quickly or we might even have another surge in the future, who knows, but I want you to be prepared. So if you can, try to get up early. And, if you know certain things are going to get restocked, you can get to the store early. You can also shop at ethnic food markets, just making sure that you always, wherever you shop, wash your fruits and vegetables and any foods that could have been touched. You can go to Cardenas, El Super, and then you can also go to some Asian markets as well to get rice and things like that. And then you can also try a meal delivery service like Blue Apron or HelloFresh if you really want to try some new recipes, maybe get better at cooking. Those are a little bit more pricey, but they're still an option for you. So as I mentioned earlier, always wash your fruits and vegetables because with coronavirus, we want to make sure that whoever touched our vegetables or was, whatever might have happened, we want to make sure that we wash those fruits and vegetables. And the last thing I want to talk about is coping with your emotions without food. So many of us may be feeling very stressed for good reason right now, anxious, and we may turn to food because we're lonely or we want to cope with our emotions. But you want to make sure that you're coping with your emotions without food. So making sure that you self-nurture, enjoying hobbies like painting, exercising, or reading. You can also use humor therapy to relax you. So trying to, you can always search, funny videos online, going onto YouTube, watch funny cat videos, whatever gets you going. You can do those things to kind of relax you so you're not turning to food. Enjoying a nice relaxing bath. You can also deal with your feelings. So if you are feeling a lot of emotions, you're really nervous, just make sure that you reach out to someone to talk to them. You could always talk to a friend, a counselor, check with, human resources to see where you can get some more counseling if you need that. And then just use those distractors that we talked about. Whenever you get a craving, instead of reaching for food, call a friend or use your hobbies. And making sure when you do eat to keep the pleasure. So avoid all distractions. Just really focus on your food, enjoying it. really savoring it and being grateful for that food that you were given. Here's another resource that you can use. Forks Over Knives will give you really simple meals to make with simple ingredients so that you're not buying a lot of different foods. And so all the things that we talked about, I understand that you still might be fearful. We're not sure of the future. There's a lot of things going on, but you do have the power to change your reality. You can control certain things. There may be shortages. There may be things that shake us up in the future, but you can learn some tools to make more mindful meals, to take control of your eating so that when we do come out of this, we're able to be the healthiest version of ourselves. What action are you going to take this week? Just take one of the ideas I talked about and just start implementing it. Maybe it's just starting to plan your meals, or it could be freezing options so that you have it for later use. Maybe it's becoming a more savvy shopper, or possibly it's coping with your emotions without food. I want you to just choose one thing and work on that for the week. Thank you so much for listening to this talk. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me at valardo@epiclp.com. The email that's shown here is an older email. It still works, so you can definitely use it, but you can use either or, vschmidt@epiclp.com or valardo@epiclp.com. I hope that you have a wonderful day and stay safe.